Hello and welcome again to CI Stories. So in today's video we are talking about ice terminology. So what different kinds of ice are there, what are they named, and it can be very confusing. So there are a lot of terms floating around for different parts of ice and snow, and yeah, there is even debates on which language has the most words for snow related words or ice related words. And there's always this rumor that the Inuit language from the north actually would have the most words for snow. This is technically not really true. Linguists are saying that actually Scottish has the most words for ice and snow, which is a bit funny, but there is also other articles claiming that because of its early involvement in polar science and the structure of the language, German actually also has a high number, or comparatively high number of words for snow and ice. So, as scientists, we are sticking to a common code. So, as everybody's using meter and seconds and units like that, also internationally, we need to agree on terms that we use for ice. So, we are using the so-called sea ice nomenclature from the World Meteorological Organization, and that is defining which piece of ice is called what. And that is of course not enough for describing every situation. So some of these words are used a bit differently in some parts of science, or also, for example, the Canadian Ice Service uses some words in a different terminology that doesn't equally correspond to the World Meteorological Organization. So, well, there's always these words: ice shelf, sea ice flows, drifting around, and I want to go a bit into a detail on what are the differences. So one of the big differences is obviously that yeah, there's ice that can be on land and there's ice on the ocean. So most people are pretty sure that when there's ice on land, well, that is typically called a glacier or ice capper, and that is not really what we are talking about in this channel. Uh, but then on the water, it gets a bit more complicated. So when ice is floating on water, then it can also be linked to land. So for example, a glacier can reach into a fjord, for example, and then the glacier is called either a tidewater glacier, or if this glacier is really big and it's basically an ice cap and it's floating into the ocean, then it's called an ice shelf. So ice shelf, that is basically floating glacier, big glacier on top of the ocean. And what usually happens when this ice glacier moves a bit, then pieces break off, and these pieces are called icebergs. And the very important thing is all this ice coming from the glacier, that is freshwater ice. So that has been formed from snow and is not salty. You can take an iceberg, you can chop it into pieces, and you can drink it right away. That is no problem. So sea ice, however, is a very different thing because sea ice is salty. Sea ice is formed from frozen ocean water and not snow falling on the land. So sea ice is really ice that formed by the freezing of the ocean. So when the air temperature gets too cold, then the ocean freezes over and we get sea ice. And sea ice can grow thicker. And usually you start by growing a sheet. But when pieces break, then or the ice breaks into pieces, that's what we call ice flows. So typically within the sea ice zones, we have multiple sheets of ice floating around, and yeah, if this piece is larger than 20 meters around, then that is what we typically call ice flows. And that is what we often work on when we work as scientists on the ship, because often we go in summer and then the sea ice is already broken up. But we are working on these pieces, which can be up to 20, 30, 40 kilometers wide, but they can also be as small as 20 meters. So I hope with that I could bring a little bit of enlightenment into the confusion about the different nomenclature around sea ice. And thanks a lot for watching and have a nice day.